Welcome to CCN Midday News. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 3rd of July. Milley confirmed soldiers deployed to D.C. amidst unrest were given bayonets. And Duckworth to hold up confirmations to ensure impeachment witness Vindman promotions isn't blocked. And Trump says Biden as president could lead to the next Great Depression. And a 911 call, a racial slur, a refusal to cash a check. This is what it's like for some black bank customers. Arrest. Video shows Karen pulling out a gun on a black woman and daughter over a Chipotle argument. And a 16-year-old boy goes into cardiac arrest and dies after being improperly restrained. Let's get to the news. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, confirmed that soldiers who were deployed to Washington to quell the protest over George Floyd's death were given bayonets. The Associated Press reported on Thursday that members of the Army's 82nd Airborne Division from Fort Bragg in North Carolina and the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment based outside of D.C. were mobilized to D.C. last month as demonstrators over police treatment of Black Americans rocked the city. For their June 2nd deployment, these soldiers were given bayonets but instructed to keep them in their scabbards and not linked to their rifles. Milley confirmed in a letter to 2 U.S. representatives that was obtained by the AP. The congressman had expressed concern in the letter that the use of the bayonets could escalate violence, comparing the situation to when the troops had to weapon at the 1970 Kent State shooting. Milley did not commit to discontinue use of the weapon in his response, saying that the situation would depend on individual circumstances. An unclassified military document obtained by the AP also detailed that some of the soldiers were not trained in riot response, and commanders planned to train them within 96 hours of arriving in D.C. Okay, so here's my commentary on General Mark Milley reporting that the troops that were sent to D.C. During the unrest of the death of George Floyd, they were ordered to use their bayonets, which, if you don't know, are these knife-like things that go on the front of the rifle to stab, people if they get too close before firing. If you're in close proximity, you would just use it to stab the person. Now, yes, they were ordered to do that. That's what it's been confirmed. I believe that would have been highly problematic, not only for DC but for the nation. I think it would have definitely sent the wrong signal. I am glad that cooler heads prevailed in that matter, and they were just told to keep them, I guess it's a pocket or some sort of pouch carrying thing that they keep it in. They were told to keep their bayonets there, and if the situation had escalated, then they would have to go further. My biggest problem with all of this is that the troops are not trained, is to know that the troops are not trained in riot resolution. So they're in the mindset of war, which is a big, huge problem. I don't understand. I take that back. I do understand why the president does this, because again, he is a child and he thinks of the military like he's playing with those green men. Not that they're real people, not that real people would be affected on either end of this, because you have to realize it's not like you're going to go fight overseas against some people that you don't know. You are now engaging the military with U.S. civilians, some of which they may even be related to, which creates a bigger problem. So I am glad, like I said, that cooler heads prevailed and they were able to let the troops not have their bayonets attached to their rifles in the midst of that. But yeah, I think it's totally crazy that they had called for all these troops to come to D.C. and then talking about they was going to train them in 96 hours how to deal with a riot, which I think is ridiculous. But, you know, nothing surprises me at this point with this administration and these people. Please, whatever you do, please vote. Senator Tammy Duckworth on Thursday announced that she'll hold up the confirmation for more than 1,000 military promotions until Defense Secretary Mark Epps confirms that the promotion of impeachment witness Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman won't be blocked. Duckworth, a retired Army officer who lost both legs during an injury sustained in the Iraq War, said that she intends to block 1,123 promotions until Epster confirms in writing that he did not and will not block the expected and deserved promotion of Vindman to colonel. The move by the Illinois Democrat raises the stakes amidst reports that the White House could nix Vindman's promotion from a list of officers sent to move up ranks. Duckworth said her blockage on the senator's senior nominees could expect Army General Vindman, who served at the National Security Council staff, listened to President Donald Trump's call with Ukraine President Zelensky last July and later testified in the open at the House impeachment inquiry. My commentary on this particular situation. So this is a battle between Senator Tammy Duckworth and the Defense Secretary Mark Epster. He sent forth confirmation for promotions for many people in the military, and one of the people in the military due to be promoted is the impeachment witness Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. And Duckworth wants to make sure that his promotion does not get blocked because he testified in the impeachment hearing against President Donald Trump. Duckworth herself, who is an Army officer who's retired, who lost both her legs due to an injury she sustained in the Iraq War. How I feel about this, I think more Democrats need to be stepping up and demanding that people are not punished for testifying against the president if he was doing wrongdoing, or if they felt that it was inappropriate and they spoke up about it. That's the way it should be. That's how this democracy is supposed to work. It is not supposed to be a dictatorship where they can just do whatever they want and, you know, we just have to deal with it. So in that regard, I don't think he should be blocked, and I think good for her to stand up and say, hey, I won't allow that. As a person of the armed forces herself, she is definitely taking a stance, and I think good for her. So that's all I have to say about that. President Donald Trump on Thursday said that his defeat by Joe Biden could mean a 1929 situation for the economy, as Biden blames Trump for the massive job losses during the coronavirus pandemic. The dual campaign messaging following the release of data showing that the U.S. economy has added more than 4.8 million jobs in June, reducing unemployment to 11.1%, which is down from the peak of 14.7%, which was in April. Trump said that he's doing an incredible job to revive the economy. During his Democratic rival speaking simultaneously said that Trump's missteps were the reason why the economy's downturn. At the White House, Trump inspected U.S.-made products before warning assembly businessmen that Democrats could unleash a Great Depression with new taxes and regulations. If he is reelected, Trump said that he has the chance to have the greatest numbers in history. We're almost there, he says. We're almost back to where we were from the standpoint of the stock market. Think of that. But Biden, given a speech by video feed, sought to dampen Trump's victory lap on the job numbers, saying that the president was the reason for tens of millions of people filing for unemployment benefits since March. I find this funny that this president says that if you vote for Joe Biden, we will be in back to the 1920s during the Great Depression. Now, I'm not sure if he was born then, which I don't think he was, but I'm not sure if he was born then, and we know he's not an avid reader, so we know that he does not know much of history, because if he knew much about the history, especially his history, since he likes to say our America, our history, well, if he knew anything about his history, as far as that was concerned, and you kind of drew a parallel to then and now as far as the coronavirus pandemic is concerned, we are in the Great Depression. The unemployment rate was at the numbers where it's at right now. The stock market was up and down and crashing mainly due to the uncertainty. And massive people, of course, like I said, was out of work. Food banks and pantries were pretty much at their limit and couldn't sustain feeding people. And, you look around, that's pretty much where we are right now, give or take, people able to kind of make things stretch, and the age of the internet and all these other modern things that kind of smooth it out a little bit. But if you remove all the fluff from it, we're basically in the same boat. So it's kind of funny to me that he would suggest that, and that if people who are engaged in the stock market, business men and women, that if they vote for Joe Biden, he would put down all these regulations to where in which, of course, the companies liked Trump for the fact that he removed the regulations, but the regulations allowed to keep structure from banks overcharging, companies going overseas and making tons of money and not paying taxes, which they kind of still are, and using loopholes. Trump removed all that, those protections, which of course made business people more money. So of course they enjoyed it, but at what cost? At the cost of the nation right now in peril due to a coronavirus pandemic that could have been avoided but was not. So I'm just, kind of at a loss. Like, well, obviously you may not be the one for the job. So I think he's just grabbing for straws there to make that comment, because I just find it to be a bit foolish and funny. Look, being the situation that you're in right now, you have nerve to be talking about the Great Depression. We're in one. I know he doesn't want to believe it, but yeah, we're pretty much in one. Paul McCowan walked into an Ohio bank clinching his first paycheck from a new job at an electric company, but instead of cashing the check worth $1,000, the teller called 911. For many African Americans, what happened to McCowan's in December of 2018 is a common experience. Banking while black is another entry in an ever-growing list of people calling the police on African Americans doing everyday things. No data exists on how prevalent the issue is, but such cases have made headlines in recent years. Florida civil rights attorney says that it gives cause for black people all over the nation after his client sued the bank 2 years ago. Some incidences end in lawsuits or private settlements with the bank, but many occur in financial institutions, big and small, with no repercussions. Racial profiling in institutions happens often, but most likely people rarely report it or file a lawsuit because such cases are difficult to prove, lawyers say. Others just make their deposits or cash their checks and move on. But with the growing outcry against systematic racism since the killing of George Floyd, more black people are sharing their banking experiences. Last month, a Florida lawyer and a businessman filed a lawsuit against Wells Fargo, accusing the bank manager of using a racial slur while he was trying to open an account. Yeah, this is highly unfortunate. It's almost like anything you do while black is a problem. I think it's a good thing, though, because it brings to light the systematic racism that a lot of us are trying to dismantle. You get to see how broad of a stronghold it has on many facets. We're not just only talking about law enforcement. We're not only just talking about gentrification or redlining. We're talking about banking institutions, institutions of higher learning, public institutions of learning. All these things, it plays such a large role. Systematic racism, real racism that deals with having the capital and having the resources, plays a huge part in how this country was built and how the country continued to thrive. And now you come to a point where it is too much and people are really sharing their stories and their experiences, and as they should, because this brings to light the problem that we face in everyday life. Just doing normal things like going to the bank and ensuring that the money that you're putting in there is safeguarded. And a lot of us don't have that assurance, just for the simple fact of the color of our skins, and that's unfortunate, and it needs to change, period. A fuller video of the dangerous encounter between a white woman and a black woman and her family has emerged on social media to show a fuller picture of what exactly transpired before the white woman got a gun and threatened to shoot the black woman and her daughter. The more complete Karen video began filming after the white woman was accused of bumping the daughter in the entry of a Chipotle in Auburn Hills, Michigan on Wednesday evening. Before the fuller video emerged, there was only a brief snippet. The white woman was arrested after she had shown the video amidst a gun directly at the black woman and her daughter, who were just feet away following a non-violent dispute at a Chipotle restaurant in Michigan on Wednesday evening. It was the latest display of a so-called Karen, or a white woman trying to exert her privilege of her whiteness in a situation where she was clearly in the wrong. The unfortunate episode in the Detroit suburb of Auburn Hills unfolded as Karen was exiting the Chipotle when she accused a black teenager of bumping her. And when the teenager asked Karen for an apology, Karen started yelling at her.
Wants to violate a 15-year-old.
No, I'm asking a question. She's a child.
She bumped into me when
so if she did something wrong, she needs to apologize. If she did
this ignorant woman bumped into a 15-year-old.
Right? Correct.
And you're on camera.
Okay.
You're feeling threatened.
Okay, well go in.
No, Mom.
I got this.
You're blocking me from getting
no,
my
girl,
No, we weren't. No, we weren't. No, we weren't. You're ignorant.
Go ahead. No, we will. But you're not going to sit there and violate a 15-year-old.
She's ignorant.
Do it, bitch. Do it. Do it. I want you to do something.
She's very ignorant.
Dumbass bitch. Yeah, I said it. You say something, I'll beat your white ass. Yeah, oh, I will. Do something. Please put your
something.
Hands
do something.
Please.
Who the fuck do you think you guys are?
Who do you think you are?
Your wife think you you are.
You called her name? She did nothing to you.
Yeah, I didn't. I
didn't.
didn't. No, you didn't. You're very racist and ignorant.
You're racist because you're calling
No,
her
you
name.
bumped it. She bumped it too.
Why are people racist? Why would you bump into
You
her?
cannot just walk
Why
around
would you
calling
bump her?
white
Why
people
would you
racist.
bump her?
This is not that
Why
type
would
of
you
world.
bump her?
White people
Why
are
would you
racist.
bump her?
No one's
Why
racist.
would you bump her?
I
Why
care
did you
about
say
you.
sorry?
I care
Why
about
did you say sorry?
and I'm sorry if you
Why
had an
did you say
incident that
sorry?
has made
If you
someone
bumped
make
into
you
her,
feel
why
like
did you
that.
say sorry?
No one is racist.
If you didn't do
I'm
anything,
sorry
why
if
would you
you
do that?
had something like that happen.
Ignorance. Ignorance. Very. Ma, watch.
Get your fucking ass. What the fuck? Get the fuck away from me.
You gonna get on her face.
You better get on my face right now. Get away. Get the fuck away. Get away. Get the fuck away. Are you gonna shoot me?
Get the fuck away.
Oh.
Get away. Call the cops right now. Call them.
Oh.
Call the cops.
Get the fuck away.
Call the cops.
Get away.
She got the gun on me.
Call them now.
With the car. Call them. I'm telling. Get the
Call the cops.
Get the license plate.
Get
Get the license plate now. Because you were never about to hit me with the damn
Don't
car.
you
You
fuck
about to hit me
no.
with the car?
Fucking
Don't get my guns on me. Call Richard back up to the police. Call Richard back up here now.
I got it.
Don't you fucking jump behind my
No,
car.
I ain't jumping on your car. What
Don't you fucking jump.
Mom, stop moving.
Fuck back. Up. Get the fuck back. Back the fuck up. No, you can't fucking leave.
You got all this on video? Yes.
Call the police.
No. Mom, stop walking.
Hello, police. Call the police. Call the police. You fucking
They pulled the gun out on her.
These white people, they're so racist. They pulled a gun on my mama, both of them. It was a white lady and a white man.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes.
It's completely batshit crazy, excuse me for my Friday language, but this story is completely crazy. I am thankful that no one was shot. I am thankful for that at least this Karen did not take it upon herself to end the life of these two people. However, it's beginning to be a bit much. I'm sorry, but some white people have to understand that your privilege does not allow you to dictate where somebody should be or do, or whether, you know, I get it, because I've been in the store plenty of times and they will either stand behind you and not say anything if they're trying to get by, or they will squeeze by the smallest space possible just so they don't have to speak to you and say excuse me, and that irritates me so much. But as you can see in the video, the woman was accused of pushing the young lady, and it's a simple of I'm sorry, simple thing like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. It was like you thought of yourself that much to say that you will not even respond, or even that child did not even warrant you apologizing for bumping. I mean, it was just that simple. And then for you to then feel threatened because of course they addressed you on it, as a, you know, you felt that there was you were beyond reproach, is a bit problematic. And again, that has to deal with a whole fundamental system of mentally knowing or being raised that you created everything, that everything kind of belongs to you, that you inherited all this stuff because all these people that look like you did all these great things, and everybody else is less than. You know, and I think it's unfortunate. It is highly impactful that we continue to tell these stories and these things continue to be exposed. It's, you know, it's messed up that a lot of these people have to lose their jobs and livelihoods. But, you know, I mean, this is a new day and age. The civil rights movement used the media as well. You know, when they saw that they were getting a lot of attention with children protesting, and these grown separatists still attacking children and putting water hoses on them and all those type of things, it brought a lot more people into the movement and wanting to know, well, what's going on? What can I do? So, you know, and in the same regard, I think sometimes it can be overkill, but in a way where in which it is helping other people see, even if they can see their own biases in what they do or how they interact with people. It's a start, you know. I mean, I know a lot of people are just, don't call me Karen, it's derogatory. First of all, it's just a name. I don't know anybody with the N-word as a name, so that kind of, when people are like, oh, it's racist to call me a Karen. Well, a Karen is really a name, and it's a person's name. I don't know anybody with the N-word as a legitimate, documented name. So, I mean, again, that could just be me. If you know of some or you know something different, you can always leave a comment in the comment section. You know, I can be taught something new, but I just feel like sometimes you gotta see yourself. Sometimes you don't know how you are. You gotta kind of view yourself through somebody else's eyes, and that would sometimes let you get clarity on how you act or how you're behaving. So I think in this regard, she should have been arrested. She should have been arrested for even brandishing a weapon. In some states, that's against the law. So, I mean, hey, you're not above it. Cornelius Fredericks, a 16-year-old boy from Michigan, died after having cardiac arrest when he was restrained by at least 7 members of a residential treatment facility he was staying at. His family is filing a lawsuit requesting $100 million in damages. According to reports, the incident happened when Fredericks threw a portion of his sandwich at another resident at the Lakeside Academy in Kalamazoo. Video surveillance and eyewitness accounts confirmed that the staff member did talk to Fredericks after that, but Fredericks threw food again. Fredericks then was pushed to the ground where 6 to 7 male staff members went to restrain him. Fredericks was allegedly restrained for about 12 minutes. It was only 10 minutes later when a director of nursing came to check the restraints, and 12 minutes later when he was released. He was then taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. This story is a bit unfortunate, with this 16-year-old losing his life after being restrained by 6 to 7 full-grown male adults after he threw a sandwich at a fellow student at this facility, this treatment facility he was staying at. He threw a sandwich, and he was spoke to the first time, and then he threw this, I don't know, the same sandwich or another sandwich at another student, and then they proceeded to restrain him. Now, why did it take 6 to 7 full-grown male adults to restrain a 16-year-old? I don't know, maybe he was a big kid. I have no idea, but I still think that's a bit excessive. But again, when you don't see someone as someone that looks like you treat them differently. And maybe it's a subconscious thing for a lot of people that they don't realize that they do it, but people do it. There's no reason that you need 6 to 7 grown male adults to handle a 16-year-old boy, to the point where you restrain him so hard and so long for 12 minutes one time, and then another, he's still restrained after the nurse went to go check on him. When they released the restraints, they took him to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The family is suing for $100 million in damages. Of course, that money will not bring their loved one back, but I think sometimes the amount is there to one, bring attention to the situation and the story. Secondly, to let this facility know that, hey, you mishandled someone, and it's not acceptable. So, you know, I think we're at an impasse where it is really time to really pay attention and really stay focused on what we need, the changes that we want to see in how we're treated, whether it be a situation in which someone has done something inappropriately, they still deserve respect and to be treated with the utmost respect, even in restraint. They should not be treated less than or like some sort of animal where you have all of these grown men, you know, putting their full body force on this little kid to the point where you cause his death, and then everybody wants to sit around like, oh, well, we were just restraining him. To what degree? That the young man has a cardiac arrest, a heart attack. Like, what kind of restraints are these? You know, what kind of methods are these? Are these adult kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Corrections facilities or correction officers kind of tactics that you handle kids this way? And it may have been a facility, it's at a treatment facility, so it may have been a juvenile kind of facility for kids involved in either something. I don't know, because it doesn't really say what type of facility it is, but even still, that doesn't give it cause to treat a child that way, because they'd be up in arms if somebody treated their child that way. And again, if their child looked like them, they wouldn't have, you know, if they saw a child that looked like them and resembled their skin color, they could see their own child in the image of the person that they're looking at, they wouldn't have done it that way. You know, people could say, oh no, they would have. No, I doubt it. I doubt it. Very highly and unlikely. But yeah, so that's all I have on that. I just want to wish everybody a happy, I guess, holiday if you do celebrate it. My whole thing is we can't sit there and dance around and celebrate an independence where we're not truly independently free, when we still have to be subjugated to somebody asking us, we don't belong here, you know, we need to see ID or anything of that nature. Because if we're not free, or if some of us aren't free, then we're all not free. So then there's no cause for a celebration about independence when we're all not independent and free. So until we're all independent and free, I won't be celebrating the 4th of July. But have a blessed weekend and see you here on Monday. Peace. Once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.